on this episode of The Match
accepted that
Query.
decision, right? They came back. They were about to chop their L, but Brian Diaz said that today was not his day. He said, you know what, I love you guys very much. I will just play Panenka and waste the golden opportunity that has been given to me.
So I have a conspiracy theory, right? I feel FIFA and CAF are in on all of this, right? So I feel it's a joint thing because even after the CAF final, Infantino came out to say this is very wrong from Senegal and all of this doesn't tell well on football and all of that bit and all that bit. Knowing that Infantino also said that guess where the Africa office for FIFA is? In Morocco.
Mosife's famous phrase, African unity. But does this look like African unity? Because how do you come 2 months after your disciplinary board has given a fair decision to come to ratify a decision?
It might be coincidence, but countries and nations that had bid or that had put up interest before started just dropping out one after the other. And at the end
African
of it,
unity.
it was only Morocco that was left standing. Today, we are not just asking who won AFCON. We are going to ask dangerous questions. The particular one that has been on everyone's lips is, can a team fight and win on the pitch? That's win a final on the pitch and then still lose in a boardroom or something akin to a court. Senegal won the match that people watched. We all watched Senegal win. Morocco got the ruling weeks later that now defines the record. So this episode is not about outrage alone. It's about law, trust, and what African football becomes when football truth and legal truth split apart. And because this is the match query, we are not doing soft diplomacy of any sort today. We are separating sporting truth from legal truth and the institutional failure sitting in between them. With me here today are Bon and Easy. Well, let's start with you, Bon. Let's strip this down, right? What exactly happened? Give us some background juice to this whole thing so that we can go from there.
Okay, it's a pleasure to be back on the pod. Just a brief timeline as to what we've seen take place in the last probably 2 weeks. But of course, to every end is always a beginning. AFCON final took place in January. We got the final in January between Morocco and Senegal. And during the course of the game, around like the 83rd minute or so, Brahim Diaz goes on in penalty box. A penalty is awarded. VAR ratifies the decision, and the Senegalese players did not like the decision. The coach of Senegal, Pape Bouana, which is all Senegal's players to leave the pitch. They should leave the pitch and everything. The match gets suspended for approximately like 14 to 15 minutes. And then the coach steps up to, the referee steps up to like try to pacify the situation, bring back the Senegal player in conjunction with Mane. Game resumes. Now, mind you, game resumed with Morocco having an advantage of a penalty that would be taken. So like the penalty was just chalked off. So Morocco resumes with that advantage. Okay, penalty is taken and everything. Brahim Diaz steps up to take the penalty and decides that in that brief, beautiful moment to put his country 1-0 up, he would go for the most flashy style of penalty, the Panenka. And of course, like most Panenkas in recent memory, he loses it, and he loses it woefully because many did not even need to even walk. He just catches the ball and every single thing. And then in extra time, Papa Gueye scores the winning goal. Senegal wins the around like January, sometime just after the AFCON, the Moroccan FA goes to file a petition that the final should have been abandoned, citing Article 82 that we are going to do a bit of deep dive into. And CAF Disciplinary Board sits on that matter and awards fines where necessary, even fines are banned, because I think Papa Bouana, that is the coach of Senegal, was banned for a period of time, right? And they were fined that was rightly given to both the Moroccan side and the Senegalese side. Now, we have 2 months after, January, February, March 17th. CAF Appeal board comes and says that the match is abandoned and gives Morocco the final, right? So that's a timeline of where we've come from and where we are now. Now, of course, we're going to go into deep dive. We are going to speak towards the legality of these decisions. But would it have happened? Was that the best manner of approach it should have taken? But Senegal has said they're going to go to CAS. They will go to CAS, they're going to fight that decision and everything. So that's where we are.
So but before you go on, I just wanted you to speak to something. One of the news that has been making rounds, we don't know how true or the veracity of it, is about I think it's Guinea also now questioning using this as an antecedent. What is the time frame for debate when it comes to the legalese around situations or scenarios like this?
So there isn't really a time frame you get. Now, what CAF has done sets a dangerous precedent, right? We are going to speak around that precedent in terms of the laws. We are going to quote CAF's articles, like there are some articles in their regulation. We'll quote them. We also speak around the IFAB law and how both of them conjoined to make in this particular situation. But about Guinea's backs, Guinea is contesting the 1976 AFCON, where the title was awarded to Morocco, right?
So just for our fans, just for our fans, there is no strict set timeline for which such decisions could be appealed or debated.
Yes, there's really no strict timeline.
There's a timeline. There's actually a timeline. So I actually feel that Guinea does not have a case. There's a strict timeline. So, sorry to cut in, there's the regulation guiding the AFCON and CAF's code of conduct. So if you go to Article 4.2.6 of the regulation of the African Cup of Nations, it states homologating the results of the matches in the absence of protest or claims. The matches are automatically homologated 10 days after the qualification phase and 48 hours after the match in the final phase. Qualification phase means the qualification before the AFCON, and the final phase means in the tournament. So in that tournament, all homologation decisions are binding and final. So
now, before we go into the implications of that, easy.
Okay.
When you first saw this news, because I saw your WhatsApp status, when you first saw this, what was your reaction?
To me, it was shocking because it was a shocking reaction because I don't think I feel the so it's my first reaction was from the emotional fan standpoint, like this is weird because why are we playing a final and you're making a decision months after? So to me, it was because I don't think I've heard of it before. There are times where you have had matches where you have had players being aggrieved, or you have the team being aggrieved, or how the decision went, or they were not happy with the decision. Even in the same AFCON, we had the Nigeria versus Morocco. This same Morocco, a lot of decisions went the wrong way, but there was no cancellation. So to me, it was shocking because it was the first time, and I also felt that it is dangerous because where you play a match 2 months later and you come back and so that means we can overturn certain decisions. If that's the case, that means Chelsea fans should be happy. We can go to court and carry Barcelona for what happened in 2009, the Overturning station. But like I said, I felt it was unjust because it was weird. Later on, I have done a deep dive of it. I still feel Senegal has a very good case. One thing I think the Morocco FA did was they did rightly was, so based on what I just read, 48 hours after, right? First, the final happened on the 18th. Morocco FA filed an appeal to the disciplinary committee on the 19th. Hence, stopping that aggregation of results. Yes, that can determine. So because they did that within the 48 hours, you could tell that, okay, so because of that, there was a time it stopped the aggregation of the results being accepted. So I think that opened a loophole, which Morocco right now are currently used. Do I think the decision is right? I don't think so.
So
yes, that loophole
before we go into the structure of what the decision, the timelines are.
Okay.
I just want to state for the record, and this is how I want you to approach things from it changes everything. You said something that tournament, when tournament has started, that's the finals. That's what CAF rule says. Now just thinking about the loopholes, possible loopholes. If we are beginning to encourage something like this, let's say Nigeria plays Morocco in the middle of a tournament, semi-final, or let's say even quarter-final, right? Usually in a tournament, the semi-final will happen days after, and within days after that, the final will happen. Let's say Nigeria plays Morocco. Nigeria loses to Morocco, or let's even say Nigeria plays Ghana. Nigeria loses to Ghana. Ghana go on to win the tournament. But within 24 hours of that match, Nigeria then files a petition, right, to say we are not happy with what happened. This should have been a win for us. There were referee decisions. Also, it should have been a walkover. Let's just create such a scenario. Okay. What happens to the tournament? Are we creating a precedent for the death of football? tournaments in Africa? Is that what we are doing? Because if you are saying we can reopen cases 2 months after, so are we saying we can reopen cases 2 months after for a game in a quarterfinal that could have determined the whole tournament?
So
Those are my thoughts now. Just putting that forward. What do you think, Izzy?
So like I said, this is where the danger comes in, right? It has never happened before, so this is the first time. So this is where I'm saying it leads to dangerous antecedents because there's a precedence of this happening. And if this stands, it now means that a lot of people would now take advantage of that, and which can affect the tournament as a whole going forward. Because now you're going in the group stage, something happens, you're going to have people filing petitions. So we need to make sure that everything stays on everything that is awarded on the pitch remains on the pitch, right? To avoid instances where you're having this becoming a continuous occurrence. Yeah.
Okay.
What you said is very clear. Bon, to come back to you, I know you were going to you plan to delve into a bit of the laws around the game, things like that. Right. So we've talked about procedure, we've talked about football justice in a little bit, and we've talked about antecedents, right? If this happened in Nigeria, which is your own country, my country, is this country as well, what would you do first? Would you calm down to read the regulations first, or would this just cause you to be gone immediately?
You mean in terms of my reaction towards them taking the
your reaction? Yes. Because we are now talking about, is this a scandalous thing because CAF were wrong?
It's
or because the rule itself is dangerous?
Okay, so Morocco were right to file an appeal. Now, there's something that I need us to first. IFAB 205, right? IFAB 5, which gives the decision to the referee regarding facts connected with play.
That's the referee finality.
Yes, the referee finality within that game. That actually also ratifies games, right? That's number one thing I'm going to actually note. Secondly, there are stipulations. Now, I've not seen this stated clearly anyway, but there are scenarios in which a game can be turned to a forfeit even after a referee has finalized the game. For example, in terms of eligibility issues, do you get where the one that Nigeria went to go and fight for Congo, where a certain player, should not have participated, all that kind of stuff, right? That is
so what you are reading now is IFAB.
No, I've read IFAB, right? IFAB's rule says that the referee has the final decision for games, right? But now, Izzy had mentioned that there is a period in which if a country can file an appeal to say, we don't like the fact that this game should not have gone the way it should have gone. The certain scenarios where a game can now be given as a forfeit. Now, I've not seen any clear place where it is stated, but I'm giving you examples from what we have seen in recent past. For example, the DR Congo one, Nigeria filed an appeal against DR Congo, say that they had eligibility issues, so things around eligibility fraud. Now, there's also the part around doping violations, where a player's test results comes back negative, and it is found to have indirectly or directly influenced the game. There's the cases of match fixing. These are like 3 scenarios where retroactive action can be taken. Now, in the case of Morocco filed an appeal. Yes, great. They used the loophole, 10 days. But that does not mean that the appeal is right in any case. It gives the jurisdiction to say, let us review. But here's now the sweet scenario. After disciplinary board sat, right? They reviewed the case and judged that referee finality will be upheld. But for the kind of conduct that was done by the Moroccan players and the Senegalese players, certain fines and bans, and for the fact that the coach of Senegal told the players to leave the pitch, we are going to ban and fine. The Senegalese board sat, we thought that case was over. Everybody was good, fine. Mind you, in that same final, the CAF president was there. It's the CAF president that handed over the trophy to them. But Sepe was there. In fact, FIFA president was there. Do you get all these top dignitaries were in that final, right? But IFAB
and these are guys that are very well versed in the administrative aspects of football, including the legality. If you know it as like the lines on their palms.
Yes. Now, also add something. While IFAB rule actually exists, and IFAB and FIFA gives federations and sporting tournaments the free will to work within those rules. That is where the Article 82 comes in and Article 84 comes in. But the thing is that if you go to CAS always upholds the field of play. It's the what happens in that game. They will somehow always uphold IFAB Rule 5, that the referee has the final decision. Now, let us look at Article 82. Article 82
So
says
there's
that,
one thing I want you to go into before you delve into that Article 82. That
Yeah.
referee finality. How
Yes.
far should referee finality? Because from what you've said now, if we are applying it to this scenario, none
Yeah.
of those three things happened in this scenario.
Yes.
There wasn't a doping scandal. There wasn't
Mhm.
ineligibility. There wasn't match fixing in this case.
Yeah.
Were those the three things you mentioned?
Yeah.
I think you mentioned one more thing, forgotten now. Now, and those are the cases, scenarios from what you're saying. The referee finality could be overtaken.
Mhm.
None of those things, just to establish before we move on, none of those things happened in this game. Okay, now, moving on from there. Now, so this is what I want you to talk about now as you are delving into Article 82, right? So there have been use of terms called like refuses to play, leaves the field. And they've talked about, I think, did they say 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 11 minutes? There has been talk about.
There's no time. That rule does not have a time slot. So it's big.
The article does not have a time slot. So I think maybe it'd be nice if someone reads out that article.
So, and in this case, Senegal returned and the game finished. So going into the article you want to talk about now, I'd like you to also talk about Senegal's strongest position, their strongest argument against overturning a sporting result like we've seen in this scenario.
First of all, I will start from their strongest position is that referee finality, IFAB Law 5, that says the referee is the final adjudicator of any match. Now, let's read Article 82 because this is actually right. The article says that a team that refuses to play or leaves the ground before the regular end of the match without the authorization of the referee. Key points. Now, funny thing is for me, I feel even in this Article 82, it still gives authority to the referee, not to the CAF Appeal Board. Without the authorization of the referee, shall be considered loser or eliminated from the competition. Now, Morocco is saying that Senegal left the game for 14 minutes without the referee telling them to, no problem, it is fine. Now, but you actually also mentioned a very, very important point, right? That I'm going to try to break down certain points where this particular article is actually quite vague. First one is refuses to play, leaves the ground. Now, these two things they are not clear. For example, you know that players can leave the ground when there's a medical emergency. The game is going on. There's a medical emergency. Players can leave the ground. Are you telling me that in that position you would come and say the game was abandoned? In terms of a weather alert, or let's say pump is about to nuke the stadium now, players leave the ground. Would you come and say, no, because of this regulation, they've abandoned the game? So it is very vague. Second, it does not give a threshold as to what is the time slot. How long can these players leave? Example, we did the game today. Players get injured. Without the referee even telling them to leave the pitch, they leave the pitch to receive treatment. Would you find them? Would you retroactively come back and say, oh, this player left the pitch when... because yes, I can use that as my loophole too now in tournament. That, oh, one of the players for the opposing team left the pitch without the referee telling him to leave to go and get treatment. And it affected the game outcome.
And that Article 82, the wording of that Article 82 from what you're reading, again,
yes,
does it say a player or players or the entire team?
It actually says the team.
The team.
Yes.
So if it says the team, another thing is Sadio Mane remained on the pitch of play. So with that, can we say the entire team left the pitch?
The entire team didn't leave. Also, what constitutes the team? The coaching staff.
If you want to attack 82, if you want to attack Article 82, right? I don't think that, because remember in the IFAB law, it also states that if a team has less than 7 players on the pitch, right? That's game. So
the game is forfeit.
Having only money on the pitch, exactly. Having only money on the pitch does not only that they can use that. Morocco can say, okay, let's bring IFAB into this one. So if I want to break down that Article 82, first of all, what's the definition of a football ground, right? So I feel a football ground is not the pitch alone. It encompasses the bit of the stadium. At least from my knowledge of football, that's what a football ground is. They didn't say pitch, they say football ground, right?
Yeah, football ground.
I feel the Senegalese players were still on their team
We're
was
still at the
still
football ground.
football ground. And I think
Yeah,
it's one
they're
of
still
the
the football ground.
reasons why the ref didn't, how would I put it, act for a forfeit, right? They tried to make sure that the game continued. First of all, you should also, so this is where I'm faulting CAF, right? So something happened in 2019, right? The Wydad versus Experience of Tunis. First leg 1-1. Second leg,
That's Wydad Blanca.
go.
Which country
Wydad
they are from
Casablanca of Morocco. Yes, now. Wydad Casablanca of Morocco played Experience Tunis of Tunisia, right? First leg 1-1 at Rabat. Second leg at Tunis. Experience of Tunis takes the lead, right? But somehow before the 90th minute, so late in the game, Wydad scores, but it is timed offside, right? Wydad players asked for VR to check. VR was not working, which is something we normally have. Shebi, it happened in England, right? VR was not working. Another
will
point,
And the players were not informed. No, in this case,
And
I
the players-
think there
the
was
players
even
were
no
not
VAR.
informed. The players were
And
not
players
told
were
that
not
VR. Yes.
yes, now, and the players were not informed, so the players decided to walk away. They actually left the ground, right? And the ref did a forfeit straight up, like, right? Do you know what CAF did? So this is why I fought CAF, right? This one was even clear. CAF tried to, when they went to display board, when my dad went to display board, CAF tried to play some sort of leniency and ask for the game to be replayed.
Yes.
Right?
I can't
Because
support that.
this one,
You should not.
the ref, that's the
And
thing,
all
though.
of that was documented. All of that was documented.
Yes,
And records are available about it.
that's the thing.
About the role of
So
CAF in that
they-
scenario you are talking about.
Try to do a bit of leniency, first of all, trying to, let's have this game replayed. If not that, the Court of Arbitration for Sports threw away that bit and like, the ref, like I said, the finality, the ref had already said forfeit. So because of that, that replay was thrown out of it. CAS in this case restated how would I put it? The fact that what the ref decides, right, is final. So
It's final,
the fact that CAF did all of that bit for Morocco, and in this case now, there was no any form of that bit. First of all, the disciplinary board and the appeal board.
Just for our listeners, who was the upheld winner of that final?
Experience of Tunis.
Against Wydad Casablanca of Morocco.
Yeah.
I guess my next question to you, Easy, that I want you to address is, given everything going on, to our, general listeners, what do you think CAF is hiding behind? Forget all these technical terms. What is CAF hiding behind in this scenario?
So this is a very difficult question because I'm trying as much as possible not to be, because Morocco is not the villain. Morocco is not the villain. I will tell you, they're just a team trying to get power. With that power, with what they have invested, they feel they deserve some sort of
Yeah. So, and that's the thing. With everything that is now being said, it looks as if, when the chips are flipped, it looks as if CAF is maintaining there is a consistency to the side that they are on. Now, we will not, because that's sentiment now, we will not go into that. I would like you to throw another sentimental curveball. If in that final, despite all that happened, Senegal had gone on to lose this game, would there have been any reason to still say, no, we are not happy with the manner with which the game was lost? It should have been a walkover.
So I think they will have just stayed with what the CAF disciplinary board had done, because that would have still happen, because there were a lot of bits that were not good for the game. Right? So they'll probably have issued defiance and whatnot, and have stayed that way. So it's one of the reasons why I feel Morocco, because Morocco had an advantage. It's not like, they had the penalty overturned.
Yeah. So,
Which they threw away.
This is what I want you to do next. In one sentence, give me the law about this scenario. In one sentence. And then Easy. In one sentence, I just want you to give me injustice as it applies to this scenario.
About which of the scenarios?
This final.
Senegal-Morocco
final.
The law simply is just like Fab Law 5. And if they go to CAS, that's what CAS is going to likely uphold. CAS will always uphold the field of play doctrine. It was what they upheld against Wydad Casablanca and Experience. And the law is just simple. Decision of the referee regarding facts connected with play, including whether or not a goal is scored, and the result of the match are final. The referee has full authority to enforce the laws of the game in connection with the match. It's simple. The fact that the referee of this Morocco and Senegal final, that is, what's his name again? I think I said his name somewhere. It's
Uh,
Jakim Dala.
Jin
Yeah,
Dala.
Jakim Dala. Yes, the fact that he said the game was not abandoned and the game could continue to play. The game is final. It's as simple as
Easy.
that.
Your thoughts in one sentence. Is this injustice?
So yes, it is injustice. You know why it's injustice? There's a lot of things. First of all, the fact that you first things first, you set up an appeal board, right? The appeal board has Moez
9
Nasri,
members.
right? It has 9 members. 5 of those members were only present during this meeting that happened, right? Only 5. Yes, the law does not state that they have to have a particular amount of number. The president, the vice president, and some others have to be part of it, right? So yes, there's that bit. But there's a member of the committee that has a conflict of interest. This Moez Nasri, the Tunisia FA president, after the final, he had sent words. There was a letter he had written to the Morocco telling them how they have done well and stuff like that and how they deserve to win the final. Imagine having that person as part of the people that are about to make. So first of all, there's an article in the CAF laws that says if you have article 20 that says if you have a conflict of interest, you should recuse yourself. You're not supposed to be part of people making such decisions.
Yeah.
Automatically, you having that letter and you being public about that bit, there's a bias. So you definitely cannot be part of the people making it. They are the ones, how do I put it? Like I was telling Bon before the podcast, 87% of CAF revenue is going to come from the AFCON, right? Which they did exceedingly well with the AFCON. On why they decided to give Morocco this decision, because first of all,
Justice
CAF and Morocco have
Do you think this is the reason behind Morocco getting to host a lot of African tournaments?
Not really, though.
Yes, sir.
Not really.
I think so.
No. See, there are actually legit reasons why Morocco has tended to host some of these tournaments. For example, the AFCON.
And I'm saying that. So, Bon, this is what I want you
Yeah.
to take into consideration when you're answering this question. Leading up to this AFCON that was just hosted successfully, Morocco has beautiful structures. Let's not lie to ourselves. But usually leading up to hosting a tournament, there's a bidding process, which is usually detailed, structured, and usually made public. It is not something that they do hush-hush. Are you aware that the bidding process that led to this last Nations Cup is not the typical bidding
process
that usually happens or that has happened in the past? Just woke up. I'm not going to state the reasons. The reasons are all over the social the media. CAF woke up, pulled out Guinea. I think Guinea had already won the bid or something.
Yes, they won the bid. They stripped Guinea of it.
They stripped Guinea of it. CAF then, usually when you strip off a nation with a clear explanation as to why they cannot go on to host it, usually immediately, because there's no time, you usually then reopen the bid. CAF delayed decision-making about what should happen after for many, many weeks. Following which, it might be coincidence, but countries and nations that had bid or that had put up interest before started just dropping out one after the other. And at the end
African
of it,
unity.
it was only Morocco that was left standing. I want you to have I'm not making any inferences. I just want you to have that in mind before going on to answer like you wanted to.
Okay, so all what you stated, it's public domain. We know all these things, and then of course, as human beings, we would like to stay in the line that says, "Oh, there's no shady dealings happening here." But let's be honest, there are a lot of shady dealings happening within that sport. It's just what it is. Let's not bring it down to Nigeria. That's the topic for another day. But the thing is this: there's an infrastructure gap in Africa. And I'm going to use like the AFCON. I don't know if the context of Guinea here, I think was around the Women African Cups of Nations, if I'm not mistaken, where Guinea were meant to host and they were deemed unprepared, right? They were probably they went to that inspection and they didn't see any reason why they should host it, because they were not prepared. They gave it to Morocco. Fine. We can decide to chalk that one under the carpet. Where me and I had an issue with was now retaining Morocco the next year automatically, without doing any fitting process. So Morocco hosted that one as an emergency hosting nation because Guinea were not prepared and Morocco were likely prepared. Then after 2-3 years later, Morocco then retains it. Morocco is meant to host this one now in 2026 again. So 3 years straight. You get it looks shady. And as easy as rightly pointed out, there's a bit of conflict of interest emanating there, where the first vice
Yes.
president is the Moroccan FA president. It looks like they are taking all this thing there. But then here now where now comes my question. Will you blame them entirely when the general African landscape are not moving into a way in which they can come
And I
out?
agree with that. I agree with that because there is a whole documentary on Netflix about all the dealings that went on and what the different football associations did when it was time to invest money that was given by FIFA to football associations. I cannot argue with you.
Mhm.
Morocco did a good job of organizing this tournament, of hosting this tournament. Beautiful
Yeah.
job.
We had mentioned that
In
before.
fact, I want to travel to Morocco from what I've seen. Morocco is beautiful. I agree. And I agree with what you said. Most of this is happening because of the deficiencies and self-inflicted deficits of other countries and countries' FAs, other countries in
Yeah.
Africa. My question now is, what are the implications of all of this that has just happened on Africa as a whole? I'm talking about not just football in sporting terms, but generally as well. What are your thoughts?
See, so the first thing I'm going to say is CAS, that is the Court for Arbitration of Sports. They've been quite clear in a couple of their dealings when it comes to the way federations handle or interfere with retroactively giving decisions on sports. We've quoted the one about why that Casablanca and Esperance Tunis, and I think in that ruling, as we're very, very stern to say, look, you guys cannot
Cancel
always
the-
interfere this way. You guys cannot keep on
Yes.
interfering this way. And now CAF has come back again 7 years
Interfere.
later to make that same mistake again. First of all, it leaves a very, very bad taste in regulators' mouths. It leaves a very, very, very bad taste. It gives you a very bad brand image. First of all, we're already dealing with people thinking that the AFCON or CAF is not worth it. And now you're doing this kind of stuff. Minding that your disciplinary board stood or sat to give a decision, right? And then 2 months after, I don't know the back dealings that happened. I don't know the coercion. I don't know the force that happened that now mandates the appeal board to sit. A board of 9 people, 5 people sat. 1 person has a public conflict of interest. Mind you, another member of that board came out publicly to say, I've forgotten his name. I think I said it.
Yes,
Said it
Mohamed
doesn't uphold
Jobla
the decision.
Dijoma from Djibouti. Yes, he came out to
Yes, he
say
said does not
because he
oppose
wasn't
that
present.
decision.
Yes, he said he wasn't aware of this decision.
So it almost now looked like they brought the 5. You know, if you wanted to do a conspiracy theory now, it would be like, but they just brought the 5 people that will easily side with Morocco to make that decision. Because that is how it looks. If a member of your board is coming out to say, I'm not aware, this is should not have happened. So where is the integrity that we are meant to actually uphold? Izzy already said Motsepe's famous phrase, African unity. African unity. But does this look like African unity? Because how do you come 2 months? 2 months. 2 months after your disciplinary board has given a fair decision to come to ratify a decision, and the article of regulation that you're even using, right, inside those lines is so vague that you can't even side on it 100%.
Yeah, and that's very clear. So what I was hoping you would also, because you're also inching towards it, what I was hoping you could touch on is, 1, the value of AFCON as a tournament, right? What this means economically for CAF. Because if we are already now talking about the veracity of even winning a final, because you can, what I'm inching at is, what is the value of a final when it can be provisional? You've won the trophy, you've lifted the trophy, but that in itself can be provisional afterwards. Because that's what it means.
So it's not meant to be provisional. CAF wants to set that precedence by doing this, but it will not work. That is the fact I'm going to say.
How much commercial harm is this going to do?
For CAF or for Morocco,
the tournament is looking legally unstable after the showpiece match of AFCON is the final. If we are saying the final now can be unstable in itself, how much commercial harm does this do? Do you think this is a tournament in the future investors will even want to associate with?
As it is now, yeah, we don't yet know the windfall of this. Because number 1, by the time Senegal goes to listen to go and write the petition with CAS, which I back them 100% to do, I feel this decision is going to get done now. You get my conspiracy theory too easy one time was that it looks like this was just a case of CAF trying to show workings to show that we tried our best. Does not even still make sense. Now, commercially, it's already voted at a very valid point. The AFCON for 2025 would give at least up to 90% of CAF's revenue, right? Which means that they generate a lot of their money from tournaments. Now, they were meant to host the WAFCON in March. It was postponed because Morocco pulled out. At that point, I thought Morocco pulled out because of all this whole AFCON shenanigans. But after like doing some deep dive of research, actually Morocco pulled out because they cited strain in hosting. That they don't think they can keep up with hosting all these tournaments back to back.
Well, I guess even that statement in itself is a slap on the rest of Africa. What are we
It
really doing?
is. It is.
So the thing about it is,
So
the
Izzy,
thing
this
about
is
it
where I
is-
want you to come in. So Izzy, this is
Okay.
where I want you to come in now. Right. From a fan's perspective, what is the psychological damage of being told your celebration may not actually count after a final? And when scandals like this happen, does this make supporters give up on institutions like CAF and invest only in rivalry and outrages? Because that's, if you look at this tournament, at some point, that's what it felt like. Rivalry, outrages, indecent behaviors like snatching towels and all of that. What harm does this do from a fan's angle?
So from a fan's angle, I will not even go far as saying a fan's angle. Let me even start from the player's angle. So when this decision came out, you could tell from social media how the Senegalese players, a lot of them came out to, you see some, I think some had to put laughing emojis, some had to say, oh, this is outrageous, some laughed, posting their trophies and that bit, right? All of this was defense mechanism because it's for them, they cannot explain what just happened, right? So in a bit, you know, the kind of where it pains you and instead you just start smiling just because you don't know how to probably react. So imagine if the players are reacting that way, imagine how the fans would feel. The fact that, oh, you have lived for this bit, oh, you are happy, oh, you finally win the AFCON. 2 months later, they tell you, you no longer have 2 stars. Now 1 star, you go still remain. Why another person is saying, my 1 star now is not 2 star. And to you, everything was done on the pitch. And so it doesn't tell well for the sport because a lot of people give up on the sport. You hear people say that my dad doesn't watch Nigeria today or removed his mind from Nigeria today because of the events of AFCON 2000. After he saw what had happened, he's like, oh, nah, he can't do this any longer because he feels like, oh, there is some sort of injustice here, right? And because of that, so a lot of is what is going to lead to. It's going to lead to fans probably saying they don't think they want to continue watching this AFCON. And already there's already a part of Europe that already feels, oh, this competition is not worth it, right? It's
not worth it though.
The passerby competition is just that bit. You have Carragher coming to post the Leonardo DiCaprio meme saying, I told you so. I already had issues with that because this is an international tournament. You are supposed to release your players for time. You have, I think United did it to Buemo and Onana previous year where you would keep them till a longer time. They don't do that for the other tournaments. So we're trying to tell these people that this tournament is better. And CAF goes on to do this.
Do something like this.
Make the tournament a full blown joke. And like I had said on like we had agreed on Twitter where we made a post on Twitter where we said something around we don't know where the CAF ends and Morocco begins. There's a lot of conflict of interest. First of all, 2 of the major sponsors of the AFCON, the Moroccan government is part of the sponsors, like official sponsors for the AFCON. Morocco Air, a sponsor. Conflict of interest is plenty. While I agree with what Bona said, yes, Morocco had done their bits, right? They created the amounts they had spent money on facilities. Like I heard they did more than 7,000 amateur field stadiums, right? They had their academy is blooming. They are actually preparing for football. Even though I have a conspiracy theory, right? I feel FIFA and CAF are in on all of this, right? So I feel it's a joint thing because even after the CAF final, Infantino came out to say this is very wrong from Senegal and all of this. This doesn't tell well on football and all of that bit and all of that bit. Knowing that Infantino also said that guess where the Africa office for FIFA is? In Morocco. So there is already a sort of bias towards Morocco. And I feel this decision
Morocco is hosting the 2030 World Cup, part of the hosting nations.
2030 World Cup. Do you know the 2028 AFCON? Morocco has already been there to be host because, like I said, they are trying to prepare themselves for the 2030 World Cup. And Mosepe, African Unity, which was the reason he gave as why those other nations dropped out and allowed Morocco host the AFCON. He said it's African unity because they're trying to make sure that, Morocco does a very good job in 2030. This cannot, yes, while I understand that CAF and Morocco have some sort of partnership, my conspiracy theory is this, that they did this judgment so Morocco is presented as champions of Africa at the World Cup. Yes, they went to CAF. They know that this will take 9 months. World Cup has already passed. They can come back and give the World Cup, the title back to Senegal later. But I feel FIFA and CAF want to present Morocco as champions of Africa at the World Cup. It's a conspiracy theory of mine. There's no backing to it. That's just how I feel.
Yeah, you
That's
said
a
a
very
lot.
juicy conspiracy theory.
Yeah, but Izzy, there's something I also want to comment on, and I want you to comment on, and it's because I feel that it's not a blame of Morocco alone. Senegal had a role to play in all of this. And even if you say, they had been wronged or whatever, there is a process for, putting forward wrongdoing. And that brings me to this. Senegal's reaction on the field of play, it felt rather caustic, very hasty, walking off the pitch like that, especially in a final that was being watched globally by everyone around the world. What are your thoughts about what should be done or how a team should conduct themselves in such a way that things like this don't happen? And the available scenarios in-game, the available rules or laws in-game that can help, if a team feels wrong, what they can do instead of walking off the pitch. Because that's what led to the whole of all this in the first place. Imagine that game went on, they still played the penalty, and Senegal didn't walk off the pitch, and they then still go on to win. Would we have been having all this discussion at all? What do you think?
Okay, so 2 wrongs don't make it right. Senegal were wrong. That one is clear. The code of conduct as to how they approached that decision was totally wrong. Do you get? And it does not warrant, like it was not African champion worthy behavior. That one is factual, we noticed. But here's the thing: Senegal came back knowing that they were already going to go down with a deficit. They accepted that decision, right? And they came back. They were about to chop their L, but Brahim Diaz said that today was not his day. Said, you know what, I love you guys very much. I will just play Panenka and waste the golden opportunity that's been given to me, right? Senegal came into the game and they won. That behavior does not make any sense. Now, we did a previous episode, one of our earlier episodes was around VAR, how VAR was causing some harm to the game. One of the things that VAR came into the game to do, of course, was to give clear and obvious decisions, like correct and clear and obvious errors, make those decisions fairer and faster. Now, one of the things that VR has been able to give players the avenue to do within game is actually contest decisions. For example, in the case where the particular bad foul is given, you see the players go and the captain lobby the referee to please, will you guys check this stuff? Now, it doesn't mean that the referee tells the VAR how to check. I don't think the relay of information is the referee can tell the VAR to check. You get. But what it does is that, for me, I feel it causes a bit of a psychological reaction because the VAR is constantly in the ear of the referee. They are constantly all tuned the communication. So if a player comes to tell the referee, please, you guys need to check his decision, you get. I think there's something to look at there. Of course, the VAR will hear that the mic and everything is there and say, okay, we are checking. Let's check this stuff. That is one avenue that players have used. We've seen it happen for red card decisions. We have seen it happen for penalty decisions, handballs, and all the lights. You get. So VAR is meant to be one of those avenues in which players can, show their grievances and it's checked. In this case, for Senegal, the penalty was checked and was ratified as a correct decision. Senegal players should not have walked off the field. It is bad. And the funny thing, these are the kind of things that tend to only happen in Africa. So it paints the image to people that are watching the game in the South Americas, in Europe, and to other continents that Africa, we are unruly people. And that is not the kind of image that we want to be painting. The African Cup of Nations, the last editions have been top-notch quality football. We've seen quality all around. The players should not come and then solely that kind of quality that we're trying to paint to other nations and compatriots in the game, that we are unruly people that don't know how to accept decisions. Some of this is meant to be ratified post-game, in my opinion.
And what you're saying is very clear because, Nigeria played the same Morocco. Even if we lost and, I think we lost on penalties, there were a lot of decisions that went against us. But in the end, the players upheld the professionalism, the calm that is expected with
Yeah.
the game. Even if
Yes.
you lose, the whole world will see that you've been wronged, but at least you have preserved the dignity of the game, which is much more important than anything or anyone else when it comes to football. It is
I'll
because
tell you
of that
so.
dignity, because of that trust. That's why we all derive the joy we derive. To then begin to take that away means you are spoiling the game for other people. Imagine
Yes,
there's
yeah.
no joy again from watching football across the globe. Do you know how many people will be affected mentally, psychologically, even financially? A lot of people's source of funds,
Livelihoods.
livelihood is based on this football. So, and that would be, I know we stand for insight and everything, but at this point also, this is us also taking a stand to say whatever happens, players are professionals and they are even being paid to play this game. They should remember that the game is not just only for them. The game is for everybody. And
It is.
whatever decisions they are making, it should be at the back of their mind. The things that I'm about to do, is it going to spoil football for other people? Try not to be selfish. Try to be selfless in all of this. And that brings us to the next thing. Easy, coming to you. Because we are now moving towards the point where it is not just about talking about problems that have plagued African football, history, and all those things, the things that have happened historically. We should be talking about solutions as well, Easy. From a fan's perspective, if you were to think, what is the fastest thing that CAF can do now, or that can be even done, that will bring that trust back to African football and African football tournaments?
So, first of all, what CAF did with this, what CAF did was they used a blunt knife to address the situation, and hence it only touched one side of it and it didn't touch the other bit of it. So I feel there were no provisions of this. This hasn't happened before. So because of that, they used the general provision to just make a decision to, I don't know what they wanted to get from it, but they used that because in the AFCON law, there's nothing stating that this is happening. So they had to use the CAF one. And why I say a blunt knife was because that law was supposed to be used in game, right? So you using it after months after means that you're not. So there's what they call I forgot what they call it in law, where it's supposed to be at that point where that bit of it is. We need to stick to one thing. I think CAF needs to do is to stick to, like you said, use the law accurately. Using the law accurately means that they would have to. You can't because you don't have provisions for that. In England we do these things now where there are no provisions for because there are no provisions for it yet. They let it slide, right? Rather than trying to over referee or try to over influence the game. So I think it's one thing CAF can. Maybe they need to review their laws and make sure that there's a provision because I heard they do adjust amendments regularly. So they need to find a provision that speaks to these bits because even if FAB says there is no provision for it when a player walks away, I think they also need to find a provision that would not be vague, that will not be ambiguous, that actually says, and that can be implied in game. Because if the finality of it is, this ref said, let's go, right? The ref didn't forfeit the game. Because of that, you're supposed to uphold that decision, except you're trying to say, you don't trust the veracity of the refs. So because of that, you want to now come in. So they need to allow boardroom decisions, the boardroom decisions, and on pitch, remain on pitch. They need to separate. So I think it's one of the things they need to do. They need to be able to separate what happens on the pitch and what happens on in the boardrooms and stuff like that. So that they don't end up intertwining, because when they intertwine, people that miss out, like it looks like when 20 fans are fighting, they say the grass fans. It's the fans, because at some point we start to lose the interest we have in the game. So it's one of the things I feel they can do.
Brings me to you, Bon. Now, if you were redrafting the laws around the legalese, around all of these things going on, learning from what has just happened, what are the changes that you make to the existing policy regarding CAF rules around African football and AFCON, tournaments organized by CAF? And also, I'd like you to comment on, we've been talking about walkout and everything. Should there be a time frame attached to these things? Should there be a classification for things like a brief walkout, for example, or a prolonged protest? Do you get? Or a refusal to continue? Should it be categorized so that there can be specifics attached to them? What are your opinions about this?
Okay, so first of all, I feel the current Article 82, which then gives the punishment in Article 84. But Article 84 says whatever happens in Article 2 or Article 30, the punishment is that there's a 3-0 forfeit. The game is abandoned 2-0 forfeit, right? First of all, the Article 2 is not time bound. It actually does not really anchor authority to the referee. It tells you authorization of the referee, what sort of authorization he gets. If I was to change the wording of that stuff, I would say if a team leaves the field of play and fails to return within a certain period of time, I will give it there. The time should be there. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, right? Following instruction from the referee. So the referee will come and tell you, you guys need to come back. Follow instruction from the referee. Or if the referee formally abandons the match as a result of that departure. So this is it. They can walk out. They walk out within a particular time frame. And the referee has got to say, please, you guys have to come back. I know another thing we actually have to note that these referees give match reports. They always give match reports. Mind you, we saw in the English Premier League recently that Pedro Neto was given a retroactive one-match ban following his conduct against Arsenal, right? Some of the things that would have been factored into the decision by the FA is the referee's match report that says Pedro Neto used unsportsmanlike wordings and his behavior towards leaving the pitch. That would be in the match report. Now, if this referee's match report or he abandons it, now what it does is that it gives the referee finality to say if the referee has abandoned this game, is a 3-0 defeat. If also the referee states it there that these players did not come back within this particular period of time, right? Based on my instruction, they actually also forfeit the game. But here's the thing. Field of play decision should still be upheld. It should happen within the time slot of the game, not after, not 2 weeks after. Because if he's thinking that Senegal will go to CAF and CAF will say, yes, CAF Appeal board, your decision is right, they are in for a very rude shock. Because CAF knows what upholding this decision would do to the sport. You don't want to open that Pandora box. Do you know how many decisions would be retroactively taken back? Like, you just be seeing appeals, you just start flying everywhere. Fantastic. So the first thing that CAF has to do is to ratify the wordings of that regulation or those articles to remove ambiguity and to give proper authority to the referee within a particular time slot in the cases of walkouts. And if the referee comes to say that this game has been abandoned, the game has been abandoned. But if the referee does not say the game has been abandoned, you don't have any rights to come back after
Intervene.
to say
True.
it's that. No. So that's
And
what I would add to that.
I think another thing that they should have in mind, or another thing I would have loved for a change to happen on, is the wording around ground versus the pitch. And I think that's also
Yes.
very
Yes, yes, it's very important.
Yes, very true, very true. Because what is
Because you
considered
can
as a
leave the
ground
pitch and still
in
be on the ground.
Now, you mentioned about match summaries and all those things, referees' reports. Which transparency package do you think should be most important, especially when we've had a problem like this? Let's say in the future, something even happens, there's a loophole, someone plays upon the loophole again. Which transparency package do you think should be the most important one?
the referee. In as much as the referee sometimes can be a pain in the ass, the referee. And I'll tell you why. In football today, the referee is put there as the anchor based on neutrality. So where there are regulations and rules where I think in the England, let me take the EPL, for example, once you're about to start the season, you would give your allegiance. Which team are you supporting? The reason why that is information that is collected is so that they can plan you for not refereeing teams that you support to uphold that neutrality. The referee is a symbol of neutrality. It's neither for each side. It's for the game. You get? So for me, in as much as yes, we come and say they are humans, they can be biased, they are still the symbol of neutrality and transparency. The decision they make within the 90 minutes should be final. It has hurt me as a Chelsea fan countless number of times. There's no football fan that will come and pick his and say he has not collected from referee issues. There's no football fan. It's part of the game. In fact, it's one of the juice of the game. Controversies, conspiracies. But for me, the transparency package is the referee.
Now, we've talked about many problems. We've talked in and around CAF itself. I want you to talk about two things. One within CAF and one outside of CAF. The first thing is, we are talking about laws. There's one, on one hand, are we needing more laws or less laws? Because with more laws, there's more complexities. And that's within CAF, right? Now, outside of CAF, we've talked about the deficits of other football federations and football associations in Africa when it comes to grassroots development, development of football generally. And you can't separate that from corruption. You cannot separate that from the dwindling economies in various individual countries in themselves. If you were to offer solutions, sustainable solutions, having all of this in mind, laws within within CAF regarding situations like this, and regulations, maybe even outside, that can help to stimulate football associations, what are the things in stepwise fashion that you would advise?
So the thing about it is, yes, you said less laws or more laws. If you put less laws, people will find loopholes, right? Because people tell you, oh, you didn't explicitly said this. So because of that,
Clearer laws, clearer
exactly,
laws.
yes. So while we advocate for laws, we need to make it very clear and open, because the idea of it is, oh, if it's going to be bound, is what is bond. The thing about it has to be very clear. So when someone is going against it, like, okay, see, this is what it said here. So there's no now nitpicking the words inside to be able to find loopholes. So yes, that's beautiful. With the bits on the Africa, I've said it, the reason why Morocco is holding the whole of CAF by the balls is because of the fact that they have spent a lot of money trying to develop, like I said, from the grassroots football. They have a very good scouts network system that makes sure that, at age 9 or so, you'll be able to get the best of the best players in the country, like in that particular academy. And from there on, they can start finding ways in Europe. Hakimi came from there. There were some other, a lot of their current setup of players all started from that academy. So they have grown their football. Like I had mentioned earlier in the episode where I said, they have built around 7,000 amateur pitches, right? How do you have the game if you don't have pitches? And it's what a lot of it is lacking in Africa. For example, okay, so Morocco said, oh, they are not going to host again, right? I feel because they were pained about not getting the decision they wanted to get. So because of that, they said, oh, they were not going to host. Let them focus on just the World Cup that they wanted to host in the first place, right? And they tried to move to South Africa, and what they call it, Morocco said, if you do that, I will not host again. No? And because of that, they had to find a way. And after the decision now, Morocco now is ready to now host. They postponed the AFCON from March to June.
Yeah.
So to around that period, to be able to make sure that bit. So I feel this is happening because other African countries have failed to open their eyes. The reason why FIFA carried their office to Morocco is because, okay, yes, they have developed. The reason why everybody is proud to front them is because, you can actually say that bit. The intercontinental playoff they did was in Morocco. They did a lot of stuff in Morocco. So right now, step by step, what they have to do, first of all, I think everybody needs to go back to the drawing board. Every African Football Federation has to go back to the drawing board, because this cannot keep happening, where it looks like everything hosted in Morocco feels like it's more lucrative. So the more lucrative it is, the more CAF will want to give them more. Obviously, the tale of the son doing well. If you give your son this amount of money, I know he's able to get more money from it. Obviously, it's the person you will give the money to again now. Do you get the talent? The story of talent in the Bible.
Well in small. He does very well in small.
You keep giving him the big tournaments. I feel the reason why a lot of why this is happening is because a lot of African countries are not ready. We're not ready. We see Nigeria that want to host another tournament. Have you looked at the state of our stadiums? We don't even have grassroots stadiums. Not to talk more. The main one itself is not all right. Is it the grassroots ones that will be all right? So we don't even have grassroots stadiums. Main ones, highest, the Akwa Ibom one, and which one, the Calabar one. Have you gone to the Abuja National Stadium of recent? It's very poor. So because of this now, Nigeria, for example, now Morocco is saying, oh, they cannot host. If other countries were, if it was not a monopoly, if it was a competitive environment where other countries have the infrastructure and everything, I don't think CAF will be sweating. Oh yeah, you take it.
Even when Morocco said they were not hosting, look at the fallback option: South Africa.
South Africa
is either Morocco or South Africa.
Because of that, they need to be able to, and it's also not generates revenue for the economy. Morocco generated $1.5 billion from the AFCON alone in revenue. That's Morocco government too. How much they generated from revenue? $1.5 billion. How much did they spend? How much are they going to spend hosting the World Cup? They're going to spend around 20 billion total. They have made a lot of money that they cannot use to, let's make this thing happen more. And it's one of the reasons why they are hosting, if you notice now, they are hosting more tournaments, because they can generate more revenues. So it also helps your economy.
Yeah.
Because you're not just going to, it's not just a football scene. Ojo had mentioned, you're going to be coming. He now wants to visit Morocco because of what he saw. And because of that, maybe his next holiday destination now will be Morocco. Where's the new? I think it's a high time the rest of Africa will wakes up, because if not, all of this will keep happening and we'll keep shouting, oh, why are they going in Africa? It's the son that is doing well. It's one that will be loved more. So Morocco is clearly doing well. So it's just what it is. So I feel we need to go back to the drawing board. We need to.
And even
Yes, there will be corruption.
Even
They
tells
will
on the
also need to
quality
work.
of and even tells on the quality of the domestic league across other African countries.
Do you get?
Because
Growing up, I used to watch. Growing up, I used to watch the Nigerian Premier League, right? And then it was one of the top 3 in Africa. Top 10 in Africa now. Nigerian Premier League is not part of it. Infrastructure. We don't even have sponsorship because the infrastructure is horrible. So how will you get sponsorship? The sponsorship for this particular AFCON now went from 11 to 23 for the AFCON. Is the most they have ever had. They're able to channel in more countries, Japan, China, getting some Asia and other bits because of how good it looks. Nobody wants to invest in a project that seems to be dying.
And
And that's what
it was beautiful. In fact, it
was
the
beautiful.
It was the most sellable. And to be honest, despite all this, I don't have any sentiments against Morocco. I must tell you something. It's the most beautiful Nations Cup I have watched in my life.
It's as good as that. So it's one of the reasons why CAF shouldn't have done what they did, because you have to the most beautiful tournament ever, and next thing you use your hand to spoil it.
But the thing is that we've not had to say is this, and it's a very, very key point for. Look, Morocco is a very beautiful country, but there are a lot of other beautiful countries left in Africa. I can tell you that Equatorial Guinea is one of those countries, Mauritius, very beautiful countries in East Africa and the like. Infrastructure development will not allow some of these countries to see the promised land. I'm even surprised. Like it's even a shame for me that Nigeria has never been on this conversation to host anything.
Nigeria was bidding before now. They were bidding, I think Nigeria and Benin Republic were bidding for one Nations Cup.
No, this is my own question. For 2025.
This is my own question.
They were part of the people that are for 2025.
We're talking about profitable solutions, realistic solutions, and all those things. Solutions. I've realized that same solutions in Nigeria, same solutions across Africa, even made by Africans, will be exported. Those solutions will be actioned elsewhere, will get results. But here in Africa, it looks like the terrain does just not make everything about solutions work. We've talked today about what can be changed about the rules. So let's say CAF now comes up with all these policies. What can CAF do to ensure? I know there are limitations, but what can they do to ensure, even if it has to be iron grip, what can they do to ensure that actually in the next 5-10 years, football is developing against the background and backdrop of corruption, dissidence, dissonance from progress that is presently going on across Africa? What can CAF do, in your opinion? Ideas, things that CAF can do. It might be small, it might be subtle, but if they start, people will have to get on board, whether they like it or not.
Does CAF have regulations or frameworks that govern domestic leagues, like standards or checklists to say this is the bare minimum as a league you have to operate with? In terms of, tell us the structure of your TV rights. How is this shared across your sponsorship? So as minimal as your wage bill. Those kind of regulations that Europe is adopting today that's making them quite good. Yes, you see it in the UEFA. UEFA has a very strong financial robust framework that governs the spending, revenue generation of clubs. That kind of framework to ensure that clubs in Nigeria are doing the best to getting funding. But the different thing, clubs cannot go above and beyond to kind of getting funding if they're not seeing the upside. You will find out that one of the reasons why maybe FPFL clubs are not investing as much in their clubs, even though they're trying, is because there's no upside. You want to kind of get 500 million to manage a club, and then the profit I'm going to get at the end of the year is 50 million. What am I getting there? Can CAF influence this kind of things? I see the Betway Premiership in South Africa. If you watch it on TV, very glamorous, looks very good. You can't tell a difference between most of their games to what you probably see in European games. The same thing with the Botola Pro League of Morocco. Another reason why Morocco was trying not to host the AFCON because the Botola Pro League was postponed and just resumed recently. So they're trying to solidify it and make sure it actually takes place before the World Cup. See, all those things that CAF can actually put more local footprint to change, because it is, the more your domestic leagues improve, the more your sporting structure improves, the more you're having more countries have better stadiums. In one of our previous episodes, we were asking the question, why are most Spanish teams building stadiums, renovating stadiums? Do you know it just dawned on me that it's 2030 World Cup?
Yes,
Most of these
it's just
stadiums,
World Cup,
most of these clubs want to have stadiums that will be in contention to host that World Cup, because it's added revenue. When they play matches in that your stadiums, you will split the money with FIFA. How will pay you? Do you get to use your facility? Because it's yours. It's the club that owns it. So you can see how some of these clubs are, putting their stadiums in good order, planning towards it, because they want to be part of the people that they will select. If that kind of framework is created across board, the financial structure is top, you have proper league rights, you have proper commercial driven revenue regulations, you are building sponsorships. I don't know. But for me, I think CAF has to have more local footprint into some of these things.
All this is where they talk. This same CAF that is telling Mane to return his MVP award. Is it this CAF? I think with all of these things, they will not do shit. And they also invested in the corruption. This one is not. Imagine having to tell Mane that he was the only player that remained on the pitch while all this madness was going on, and he won the MVP.
So they're telling Mane to return his MVP. His MVP was a factor of him winning the AFCON. That's what they indirectly say.
They're telling him to return it. So, like, the CAF is invested in. I don't think, yes, it's easy to say all of these things, but I don't think CAF would do anything.
Now, one of the things, controversy that went on in the last Nations Cup final was the snatching of towels and all those things on sportsmanlike.
That was from semi-final.
It actually went on almost throughout the whole tournament. What clear regulations do you think should be in place? Because it looks like there's a culture around hosting to win, and that is one of the things that potentiates things like this. What in your mind, what in your own opinion, do you think should be clearly stipulated by CAF about hosting nations to prevent us unsportsmanlike behaviors like what we've seen in this last tournament?
So I think there would always be unsportsmanlike behaviors. It's going to be, apparently, a lot of us here always we are entitled. I think with Ivory Coast, the only thing is Ivory Coast didn't take it too far. Last AFCON, Ivory Coast, what they did was they tried to. There would always be unsportsmanlike behavior, even in how do I put it now? Even in Europe, there was unsportsmanlike behavior. For example, I think the Newcastle Barcelona tie where they were telling fans not to sell their tickets because they want to give a limited number of people. Those ones are allowed, but what is not allowed is on the pitch people are trying to do a lot of business. It didn't happen in Ivory Coast, so I think it's happening in Morocco, and it happened in Morocco because my only thing is there's no shall adopt it. If they have to find a way to curtail that thing, because if they allow that bit happen, people will adopt it. Next thing you see Arsenal next season snatching towers because they want to win league. So the thing about it is, I feel there is always going to be unsportsmanlike behavior to host somehow would always be entitled. The only thing is they should limit it to, they shouldn't affect what is going on the pitch. And CAF should have done, if you notice, the bans that were given by the CAF Disciplinary Committee were also appealed, were also reduced by the appeal board too. So, like I said, with this, in this case, I don't, like I said, it looks like CAF is also invested in this thing because I don't even know what to say. Is it the fact that, because you won't tell me, oh, you support that behavior, a ban was given and you are reducing the ban for something. This is what screams injustice. So yeah, I don't think it's ever going to stop where you have the host nation will want to win. They invested so much, they believe that, they should at least go far in the tournament. But now going to the point where, with Morocco's on the exception of the case, like even from the beginning, decisions were going their way. It felt like, they were a thing to avoid, because if you're going to play them, it looks like, we're going to be playing against 12 men. We're going to be playing against the ref and everything that. It happened in Nigerian game. It happened in some of their group stages game. And it also did happen against Senegal. The fact that they got the advantage and they lost it is the reason why they're crying foul now. If things had gone smoothly, there will not be any foul or cry. And if they believed that they did everything to win the game and they were cheated, they won't sack their coach. They let go of their coach to get a new one. This to show that, even in their mind, they know that they did not do well. So, because if you felt your coach did well and the everything that was happening was down to... They had threatened to let him go now. And he decided to... oh, let me just walk myself.
Okay.
So if that was happening, if they felt, they had the same confidence, it was going to do well and stuff like that and the whole thing, they won't do that. All this now is not going to happen in the World Cup. They know that they're not going to get this favor in the World Cup, so they need to, because if they felt they played to the best of their abilities, I know they did well to deserve the title, the head coach will not be paying that price. So yeah.
Well, this should be the scandal that forces evolution. Clearer walk-off rules, transparent appeals, referee-protected finality, independent legal reviews, smarter tournament governance. Because AFCON should not be remembered as a competition where a trophy is settled twice, once on the grass and once in a room. But here we are again, and we will continue to, ask these questions. Like, share, subscribe, and comment on all our outlets. We are available everywhere you get your podcast. Till next week, we remain the Match Query.